So welcome back. Today we're looking at Uruguay and its approach to regulating big digital platforms. It's interesting because they seem to have two things going on at once.
That's right. Two completely parallel tracks. One got through relatively smoothly dealing with labor issues,
Right.
but the other one focused more on democratic governance. Well, that's hitting some serious political turbulence. It's getting framed as censorship.
Which sounds pretty bad. So our mission today really is to unpack that. Why is this governance effort being called censorship, and what's it actually trying to achieve? Because the sources suggest it's kind of the opposite.
Exactly. It seems designed to combat censorship, not impose it. But let's start with the success story first, okay? The labor law.
Yeah, Law 20.396.
Okay.
This one targeted gig workers, right? Delivery drivers, transport apps, that sort of thing. And it moved fast approved, regulations sorted by mid-2025.
Mm-hmm. And the really crucial thing it did right off the bat was assert national jurisdiction. It basically said, look, Uruguayan labor law applies here in Uruguay.
Simple as that.
Doesn't matter if your company's headquarters are in Silicon Valley or somewhere else. If you operate here, our laws apply. That's a big statement against these transnational tech companies.
And it introduced some really modern legal ideas, too. I was struck by the right to digital disconnection and this concept of digital reputation.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. It formally defined algorithmic management, so acknowledging that software is making decisions about people's work.
Which is huge.
And yes, the intangibility of digital reputation. Think about your rating on a platform as a driver or whatever. That's now seen as a protected asset.
So a bad, maybe unfair rating that stops you getting work that's now a legal issue.
Precisely. It connects your digital footprint directly to your right to earn a living. It recognizes that harm.
Okay, so that law established jurisdiction for labor, but moving from worker ratings to regulating, well, speech and information flow online, that seems like a much bigger jump. How did they get there?
Well, that brings us to the second track. This one's driven more by civil society groups, pushing for what they call bases para una regulación democrática, a framework for democratic regulation.
And this is the one being called censorship.
This is the one. The narrative got flipped almost immediately. Political opponents jumped on the censorship label. But if you look at the framework's goals, it's all about platform accountability, transparency.
And addressing the fact that, censorship is already happening, just not by the government.
Exactly. It's happening through corporate decisions, often opaque ones, with little recourse for users.
And we actually have a really stark example of that from the sources, don't we? The Sudestada case.
Oh, yeah. That one's quite telling. Sudestada is an independent news outlet in Uruguay.
Right.
They published investigations, pretty serious ones, about alleged corruption in the justice system, and then Google just removed them.
Removed them based on what?
Anonymous complaints. And here's the kicker. Google cited legal frameworks from the U.S. or the EU to justify it.
Wait, so they applied foreign rules inside Uruguay to take down Uruguayan journalism about Uruguayan issues.
You got it. That's the core problem. It highlights this massive sovereignty gap, a foreign corporation making decisions about what Uruguayans can read with no local due process, no real appeal.
That just screams lack of accountability, and that's the problem this second regulatory track is trying to fix.
Right, precisely. Which is why the philosophy behind it is so important. It's not about telling platforms what content is allowed.
Okay, so what is it about then? If not content, then what?
It's about process. The framework actually leans heavily on UNESCO guidelines for platform governance. It focuses entirely on regulating the processes platforms use.
How does regulating process stop Google, say, from taking down another Sudestada story next time?
It forces transparency. The law would mandate things like algorithmic transparency. Platforms would have to explain how their systems promote, demote, or remove content.
So no more black boxes making secret decisions.
Exactly. And crucially, it mandates robust domestic due process. Proper appeal mechanisms within Uruguay for users who feel their content was wrongly removed or demoted. It's about fairness, accountability, not controlling speech itself.
Okay, I think I'm getting it. So pulling it all together, this governance framework, the controversial one, it's essentially building on the ground won by the labor law.
Yes. The labor law asserted territorial jurisdiction.
Right.
Now, the second track tries to use that jurisdiction to demand fair processes and accountability from platforms regarding fundamental rights, like freedom of expression. It's a rights-based response to unchecked private power. It's about digital sovereignty.
Makes sense. It reframes the whole censorship debate.
It does. But that leads us to maybe the biggest question, the final thought for you to consider. The legal framework itself might be sound, principled, but implementation is everything.
What do you mean?
Can Uruguay actually build the technical capacity needed? Can they stand up a regulatory body that's specialized enough, independent enough, to actually audit these incredibly complex algorithms?
To enforce transparency mandates against global giants like Google or Meta.
Exactly. Having the expertise and the autonomy to do that effectively,
Yeah.
that's the real challenge. It's not just about passing the law. It's about whether the state has the technical muscle to make it stick. That's maybe the real test for democratic regulation in the digital age.